to advocate issues that matter most to our district, including ensuring energy security, protecting data privacy, improving healthcare access, and strengthening America's role on the world stage. I will continue fighting for smart policies that promote economic growth while ensuring that the U.S. remains a global leader. I've also rejoined the Problem Solvers Caucus, a bipartisan group that's committed to finding common ground on issues facing our country. This caucus is now led by Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, a Republican from Pennsylvania, and Congressman Tom Kean, a Democrat from Long Island. Working with members of both parties, we are focused on finding pragmatic solutions to improve governance and to deliver results for the American people. In early March, President Trump delivered a powerful joint address to Congress, outlining a bold and optimistic vision for America's future. His leadership has already led to historic success. Our borders are finally secure, illegal crossings have plummeted, and law enforcement is empowered to keep our communities safe. The economy is booming, with over $1.7 trillion in new investments and a resurgence of American manufacturing. On the world stage, America is once again leading with strength, freeing hostages, eliminating terrorists, and pushing for peace. And here at home, President Trump is restoring common sense, protecting fairness in women's sports, safeguarding children, and eliminating divisive DEI policies in this government. His leadership is delivering real results, and we in the House will continue to fight to keep America strong. Turning the corner into 2025, one of the most urgent issues that we face as a nation was securing our borders. The immigration system was broken, and the situation at the southern border continued to deteriorate. Fentanyl and other dangerous drugs were flooding our communities, leading to devastating consequences for families across this country, including right here in New Jersey. That is why I supported bipartisan legislation that would increase border security, enhance screening for fentanyl ports of entry, and ensure that law enforcement has the resources that they need to combat illegal immigration and drug trafficking. Law enforcement must have the tools that they need to do their job effectively, including ensuring that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement can arrest and process the deportation of all violent criminal illegal migrants. Securing our borders, it's not about politics. It's about safety, it's about security, it's about upholding the rule of law. Since President Trump took office, illegal border crossings have dramatically decreased. In just the first few months of his administration, illegal crossings have dropped by over 70%. Strong border policies, increased enforcement, cracking down on illegal migration have made a real difference in securing our nation and protecting American families. Now, at a time when our national debt is skyrocketing, Congress must exercise fiscal responsibility. We need to rein in wasteful spending while ensuring critical programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid remain strong for future generations. I have pushed for a responsible budget that prioritizes essential services without burdening taxpayers with unnecessary expenditures. I will continue to work with my colleagues to curb reckless spending while protecting the programs and resources that our families rely on. In the spring of 2023, I was one of 4 members, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, who was credited by the Problem Solvers Caucus for developing a bipartisan framework to keep the government open. I then voted for the Fiscal Responsibility Act, a critical bipartisan effort to ensure that taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely and efficiently. This initiative is a strong example of how we can come together across party lines to promote fiscal responsibility while still funding key priorities for American families. Next, I want to speak briefly on global affairs. It is clear that the world is becoming increasingly dangerous, and America must stand strong in the face of threats from rogue states and terrorist organizations. As a strong supporter of Israel, I have worked to ensure that our ally, has the resources necessary to defend itself from Hamas and other terrorist groups. I have supported bipartisan efforts to hold Iran and its proxies accountable and to strengthen America's national defense. We cannot allow adversaries to undermine our security or threaten the peace and stability of our allies. The United States must stand firmly with Israel in an ongoing fight against Hamas terrorists. Israel has a right to defend itself against these brutal attacks, and I fully support providing our ally with the necessary military and humanitarian aid to ensure its security. Additionally, we must work tirelessly to bring every single hostage home. No family should have to endure the pain of knowing that their loved one is being held by terrorists. I will continue to advocate for policies to support Israel's defense and for diplomatic efforts to ensure the safe return of all hostages. And as technology advances, data privacy has become an increasingly critical issue. Americans deserve to know how their personal data is being used, and companies must be held accountable if they do not protect consumer data. As a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, I am working on legislation that strengthens data privacy protections and ensures that businesses operate with transparency and accountability. I have joined the Data Privacy Working Group that is led by Committee Vice Chairman John Joyce from Pennsylvania. There's a lot we can do to increase the protections in this area. Now, some important notes from right here in our district. I am pleased to report that as of about noon today, we have returned over $18.2 million to residents through casework assistance, and we've closed over 3,500 cases. I've also responded directly to over 139,000 constituent letters and taken over 25,000 live calls from constituents. These communications span hundreds of different policy issues, whether it's helping with Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, or resolving issues with federal agencies. We are here to help. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out to my office. We are committed to providing the highest level of service and ensuring that your concerns are addressed immediately. On the regional and local front, I am holding New Jersey Transit and Amtrak accountable. Commuters in our district have faced delays, service disruptions, and fare increases for far too long, and absolutely unacceptable. I've demanded greater transparency from these two entities and will continue working to ensure that riders get the reliable and the safe service that they deserve. Now, I want to discuss an issue that many of you may have heard of, even if you were not directly impacted by it. The I-80 sinkholes, and ultimately the highway's closure, which has caused significant disruption for commuters, complete vehicular gridlock on local roads, and immense economic devastation for the small downtowns in the area. I invited U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to see the site firsthand. And this past Saturday, Secretary Duffy, Governor Murphy, and myself, we saw the damage and spoke to local residents and business owners who have been impacted by this. I'm pleased to share that Secretary Duffy gave his full commitment to getting this fixed. And with federal support and cooperation from all levels of government, we will ensure that highways is repaired both swiftly and safely. I was with Governor Murphy 2 weeks ago when he first declared a state of emergency. I recommended then that New Jersey Transit offer incentives to use rail and bus to help ease the burden on affected commuters. It is good to see that New Jersey Transit now offers a 50% discount at rail stops in the area as transportation alternatives during this period. These are just a few of the many issues I've been working on. I'm eager to hear from you tonight. I will be turning it back to the moderator so we can hear your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman. And a quick reminder, if you have a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And also, you can get signed up this evening for the Congressman's e-newsletter by pressing star 6 on your telephone keypad. And let's get to our first question of the Q&A. This was submitted by Susan in Bridgewater, who wants to know, Congressman, do you support the work that Elon Musk and Doge are doing to cut federal government agencies across the board and lay off thousands of federal employees?
I do support federal government spending that reflects the needs and the priorities of the American people. It's well past due that the federal government has a 21st century accounting system and puts a premium on both transparency and accountability. Past administrations, both Republicans and Democrats, have advocated and done this with great success. Right now, we are paying $2.5 billion in interest payments on our national debt on a daily basis. I do not support turning a blind eye to any waste, fraud, and abuse whatsoever. We need to make sure we also are protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security for their intended beneficiaries. We all know that we've seen numerous examples of inappropriate spending at home and abroad. This is a necessary step. Thank you.
So Nancy in Springfield is asking, why did you vote in favor of the Trump-supported CR earlier this month that many people have called a license for Elon Musk to keep destroying our federal government?
Thank you, Nancy. The full-year CR that we passed earlier this month kept government operational and supporting Americans. It's extraordinarily important that we keep our government open for the important programs at home and abroad. I am never in favor of shutting down the federal government. Republicans did engage on the House level on full-year FY25 negotiations in good faith with our Democratic counterparts, but they refused to drop their outlandish demands. I'm glad that U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer allowed the process to work in the U.S. Senate, so we were able to get the government funded, for the remaining of the fiscal year. This bill reduced the overall amount of discretionary spending while fully funding core government programs. Funding the federal government is a constitutional obligation, and I voted yes to uphold that duty. But while I am also working this calendar year to continue to push for 14 local projects that are important to my constituent, we need to ensure that the federal government supports sidewalk reconstruction in Summit. We need to support the police department in Byron. We need to support lead pipe replacement in Hopatcong and many other local important projects. Those are my priorities as well. Thank you.
So Stephen in Westfield says he's very concerned about the security of Israel right now with a new unpredictable regime in Syria and Hamas continuing to be militarized in Gaza and now terror activity in the West Bank. Can Israelis count on the United States for defense aid going forward?
Absolutely, they can. It's necessary to do so. I share your concerns about Israel's security and the threat to them that is occurring on a daily basis from multiple fronts. We need to make sure there's no delays in aid and weaponry. Israel needs to have time and tools necessary to destroy the terroristic threats. We also need to make sure that we return the hostages who are still in Gaza. And Israel cannot continue to face ongoing terroristic threats right next door to them. We also have to be very clear that Iran is still a major supplier and financier of terrorism around the globe. They were fully supporting Hamas, the Hezbollah, and the Houthis. And we need to make sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, and that needs to continue to be the American and U.S. policies going forward. Thank you.
So a cool feature of the technology we're using for this live telephone town hall is the fact that we can do polling, where we can get your feedback, what you're thinking about. And please use your telephone keypad to respond to this question. Should the U.S. continue providing military aid to Israel without conditions? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. So again, should the U.S. continue providing military aid to Israel without conditions? Please press 1 for yes and 2 for no.
Your response has been registered.
Thank you very much for everybody that just keyed in their response. Let's get back to more questions. Don't forget, if you have a question you would like to ask, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad. And to join the Congressman's very informative e-newsletter during this call, all you need to do is press star 6. And Mark in Kingwood wonders, are you going to allow Trump, Elon Musk, and Mike Johnson to cut Medicaid benefits for the tens of thousands of households in your district that rely on the program?
My priority is to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for their intended beneficiaries. I do not support turning a blind eye to any fraud, waste, or abuse whatsoever. Those would cause a direct threat to the mission of these important programs. Specifically, on the reconciliation vote, the budget framework bill that the House passed, it never once mentioned Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. As our work on government spending continues, I want to continue being very clear. I support protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for those who rely on it, these programs across our country. Thank you.
So the next question is being asked by Robbie in Hackettstown, and wondering, will you commit to protecting crop insurance for the farmers in your district, and do you support cutting SNAP benefits? Also, Congressman, why is the farm bill being delayed so long?
I was disappointed that bill did not pass last year on a bipartisan basis. We now need to make sure that the Farm Bill, which is a 5-year authorization program, is put through on a bipartisan basis. And we need to protect both crop insurance as well as the SNAP beneficiaries for those who depend on it. This district is the second most agricultural in New Jersey. We also, so I met with farmers as well as SNAP beneficiaries within our district. We need to, and we can protect both and ensure that these programs are strengthened across the entirety of the farm program, so we can make sure that the farmers can weather the economic and other damages that may happen, as well as ensuring that we have work requirements for able-bodied adults who don't have dependents to encourage self-sufficiency. We need to protect these programs, and we can work on to make sure that the Farm Bill is strong and pushed through on a bipartisan basis. We need to protect and ensure there's food security for families, and we need to have a strong bipartisan bill as soon as possible, because that's what's going to be cause for certainty for farmers and food producers need. Thank you.
So Kelsey in Mendham says, Congressman, yes or no? Can you commit right now that you will vote against a national abortion ban if one comes to the House floor?
I'm pro-choice. I have a 20-year voting record that reflects that on both the state as well as on the federal level. I would oppose a national abortion ban. Post-Dobbs, I believe this is an issue that's best left to the states. I also support IVF. Making this remarkable technology more accessible can and will change countless lives for the better.
Let's take a quick detour, and if everyone will help me out by answering this poll question. Again, please use your telephone keypad to respond. The question is, do you support the work that the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is doing to cut wasteful, fraudulent, and abusive spending of taxpayer dollars? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. So again,
your response has been registered.
That the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is doing to cut wasteful, fraudulent, and abuseful spending of taxpayer dollars. please press 1 for yes and press 2 for no. You folks are keen in their response. Thank you very much for taking a moment to reply to that question. And let's get back to more constituent questions. This is from Barbara in Reddington. Do you support all of Trump's immigration policies? And do you support ICE raids and all the deportations going on, even in our area?
The clear fact is that if we don't have a secure border, we do not have a secure country. And I do want to thank President Trump for finally securing our border. And we can see that legal border crossings are shown to be at their lowest level in over 5 years. The president's strategy is working here. And on the topic of criminal illegal migrants, we absolutely cannot turn a blind eye to them in our communities. ICE's work is important and it's effective. And whether I'm watching the news or speaking to my constituents, it is shocking every time that you hear the arrest records of individuals ICE is apprehending for deportation and prosecution. Many are wanted for sexual assault, drug trafficking, and even murder. I support the strong law enforcement activity that makes our communities safer. And I also support bills like the Lake and Raleigh Act to ensure that we protect and make sure we hold people who are accountable at the hands of criminal migrants who should never have been allowed in our country in the first place. This is about law and order and keeping our communities safe.
Next, Congressman, Lewis says, I saw you visited the site of the I-180 sinkhole in Wharton a few weeks ago. Can you do anything to help get this fixed faster? The entire area is completely gridlocked with the highway closure, and I know many small businesses that are suffering because of it.
Yes, as I spoke about in my earlier statement, I will do everything I can to make sure that I-80 is increased, is repaired, and we make sure that we have increased federal support there. It's important that I was there with the governor a couple of weeks back, and that I invited Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to see it firsthand so we can continue to push it. I will continue to focus to make sure that it's repaired. The commute times are tripping for people. It's hurting small businesses like the local diners that Governor Murphy and Secretary Duffy and I toured. This is impacting small towns along these routes. You've all seen an increase in traffic on other roads. This is extraordinarily important, and this is an all-of-government approach. We're working with the municipal government, county government, state, as well as federal to make sure that we solve this problem and open this roadway so it's safe.
So the next question, sir. Carrie Ann in Basking Ridge says, I was surprised to see you buck to the Republican Party and supported saving the clean energy tax breaks that were in the IRA. But you're outnumbered in your party. What will you do to push back on the drill, baby, drill mentality of the administration and the total ignorance to climate change?
I support an all of the above energy strategy, except offshore wind turbines. New Jersey right now is 42% powered by nuclear energy and 49% by natural gas. It's natural gas, small modular reactors, as well as innovative renewables need to be pillars of our country's energy strategy for the next several decades. I am completely dedicated to unleashing American energy. I want the energy to be produced here, so we're not relying on countries that want to do us harm. I believe that climate change is real and that we can take responsible steps to address it. That letter that you referenced is a tangible and responsible approach that we can take to make sure we have a cleaner and more sustainable future right now. However, we cannot take a Green New Deal type approach that crushes our economy while providing no real solutions to the threat of climate change domestically. Policies like mandatory EV sales, mandatory charging stations, and unfair individual emission taxes and are all long ways to go. We can find a bipartisan solution and I believe we can do that find that common ground.
It is great to see so many people are connected into this live telephone town hall with Congressman Tom Kean. And so far, so good. I'm going to go see if I can be 3 for 3 with these polling questions. Again, so many people have responded. I truly appreciate that. Use your telephone keypad to reply. Question now, do you support deporting illegal migrants who are charged with violent crimes? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. So again, we're looking for your input on this question.
Your response has been registered.
Illegal migrants who are charged with violent crimes. Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. I see folks are keen in their response. Thank you very much for participating. And now let's get back to questions. Don't forget, if you have a question on your mind, please press *3 to enter the question queue and get signed up during this event by pressing *6. Get enrolled in the Congressman's very informative e-newsletter. And now we've got a question here from Paul in Summit. What specifically have you done in Congress so far this year to get our SALT deduction back?
Thank you, Paul. This is an issue of affordability and fairness. Restoring the SALT deduction for New Jerseyans continues to be my top priority in this Congress. I've had very productive conversations, both with President Trump as well as fellow Republicans and Democratic colleagues from across this country who understand the importance of restoring the SALT deduction is. Last year, I was the only New Jersey member of Congress who voted against a tax package that, because it did not include SALT restoration. People know that we need to find that common ground, and I've been working as a leader in the SALT caucus in this region as well as across the nation to find that common ground to make sure we restore it. It's hugely important for fairness as well as affordability in New Jersey.
So next up, we've got a question from Michael in Rahway. And he says, Congressman, you used to be a big supporter of Ukraine, like many of us. You used to not want to see Russia take over Europe. What are you doing now to get Trump to support Ukraine and not let Russia take over Europe?
First, I want to be clear that the last administration was incredibly weak in their approach on this issue. Putin invaded due to Biden's weakness, and then the support for Ukraine that was necessary was often not timely and not sufficient from the Biden administration. I have long supported and continue to support Ukraine in its defense from the illegal Russian invasion. In fact, I've been sanctioned by Vladimir Putin because of my strong support for Ukraine. Putin is a war criminal. We, as a country, have always advocated for peace. And President Trump and others are working towards that long and swift peace right now. I personally met with Zelensky, both here in Washington, D.C. and Kyiv, as well, and President Zelensky is working with President Trump and this administration, hand in hand, to execute a peace deal. There are active negotiations that are going on right now. Russia has completely failed in its war against Ukraine. That's credit to the Ukrainian warfighters who are on the ground, well as hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. military aid. Now is the time to make sure we have lasting peace in Europe.
Let's see if we can go 4 for 4. Here's another poll question, looking for everybody that's on the line with us to use their telephone keypad to respond. Question is, do you want Ukraine and Russia to come to a peace agreement to end the war as soon as possible? Or should the United States increase its military support to Ukraine so they can sustain their war effort? If you're looking for a peace agreement now, please press 1. Sustain Ukrainian war effort, please press 2.
Your response has been registered.
Do you want Ukraine and Russia to come to a peace agreement to end the war as soon as possible? Or should the United States increase its military support to Ukraine so they can sustain their war effort? you're looking for a peace agreement now, press 1. To sustain the Ukrainian war effort, press 2. The folks who are responding, thank you again for taking the time to do that. Back to another question here. Congressman George in Sparta, do you support allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices to lower costs for seniors, like what was in the Inflation Reduction Act? Or what do you support to prevent big pharmaceutical companies from making excessive price hikes?
There is one initiative that I have championed in the House that I'm confident would have a positive impact on lowering drug pricing in our country. And that is to get rid of the PBM middlemen that are ripping off manufacturers and customers alike. PBMs are pharmacy benefits managers. In an Energy and Commerce Health Subcommittee hearing late last month, I asked panel witnesses some direct questions on this topic. They were local pharmacy managers, and the response was time and time again that PBMs are one of the largest obstacles to lower drug prices in our country. Fact of the matter is that each and every one of us are affected by drug prices that are at one time or another in our lives. We need to work together in a bipartisan way to get real and lasting results in this space. We need to have more transparency and more innovation. We're going to find the necessary cures and treatments, as well as reduce the price at the pharmacy counter. We need this important reform this year.
So, Congressman, that looks like all the time we have for Q&A. I do want to make sure, though, that we give you a little bit of time to provide us with some parting words or closing remarks, if you will, please.
Thank you. Thank you all again for joining us. And thank you for the great questions. I hear your concerns about issues that we are taking up in Congress, like government spending, like protecting Israel, immigration, and law enforcement. I hear your concerns about the state of affairs across the world. These are all very important. I also would like to continue hearing your thoughts on new and emerging issues, such as artificial intelligence, data privacy on popular digital platforms. I support Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. I'm happy that this is the now 9 town halls that we've hosted. We're so productive. I keep your questions, your feedback, and your ideas in mind in this job every day. I will continue to keep them in my mind as another way to keep connected as we work together on your behalf in Washington, D.C. Your priorities will always be my priorities when I'm in Washington, D.C. or at home in New Jersey. Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you, everybody, for taking part in today's telephone town hall with Congressman Tom Kean. If you'd like to stay up to date on the Congressman's work, you can follow him on Facebook using the handle @Congressman Kean. And at this point in our call, to get subscribed to the Congressman's informative e-newsletter, just stay on the line and leave us your name and email address after the tone. Thanks again for joining us. We do hope you stay healthy and safe, and have a great